Well, as we absolutely know, Facebook and Instagram went down at around 4 a.m. Eastern Australian time, and patchy service resumed in stages throughout the day. A lot of people were freaking out. Some, you could say, took it better than others.
Yeah, Australian police and SES social media accounts were pretty funny. They were asking public to stop calling 000 about it. Very tongue-in-cheek. Although I must say the write-ups of that in some media circles didn't quite catch the humour or the satirical.
It was a bit subtle for some.
Yeah, it was. So that was kind of funny itself, because those people were obviously far too invested in this whole outage that was happening. Tonight's Taking Stock, Claire Kimball is with us. She's founder of The Squiz and former media advisor to Tony Abbott, and Alex Bikovich, digital editor at Your Money. Everyone runs businesses from your side of things, guys, today, and you would have had your own problems with the way you're trying to get business on a day-to-day basis with socials down. Alex, you're kind of working behind the scenes in the digital side of things. There was some talk about advertisers maybe being refunded, which is an interesting part of all of this, I thought.
Yeah, so a few Bloomberg reporters have said that it might be the case. Look, I think we need to keep in mind they don't go down that often. And, I've been critical of Facebook on this program before, but as someone who oversees a digital platform, I have a lot of sympathy for what they've gone through today, because when you consider how much of an important public infrastructure this now is, I mean, compared to Sydney train system, it doesn't go down very much. And I think that's one of the really interesting things about this is it really does sum up, every few months there are these little, or even weeks, there are these reminders that these social platforms are not just companies and they're not just entertainment. They're serious pieces of social and public infrastructure that people base their whole lives around. And, there was a lot of chatter and a lot of humour online about this and the withdrawals. I note that Chris Griffiths, shout out to him, from The Australian and regular contributor on this show, said something to the effect of, now we can all go outside and play. And, had images of that Simpsons scene where they all go out and go on the swings for the first time. And he got a bit of backlash about it because people were saying, well, hang on, this is not just entertainment. I'm trying to run a business here. Yeah. And this has caused a lot of problems for me. So the trolls are after Chris, but,
he'll be okay.
Sure. He'll survive it.
There was a very serious analytical piece I was reading just before I came in from the BBC saying, basically in the UK, the impact on business, they were trying to put some metrics around some of that and exactly what damage had been done. But in the same breath saying, someone else who had complained really bitterly was a doctor who attended a nurse's retirement morning tea and couldn't put photos up.
Yes.
Like, you kind of can't put the same in the same breath and be taken seriously.
Actually, news.com.au has done a funny one this afternoon about the winners and losers. Amongst the losers, some of the Bachelor stars from last night couldn't kind of brag about what went on, that was the whole part of it. Losers being waistlines. I mean, if you were going to hit the F45 gym class this morning, there was no social media to brag about it. You probably didn't bother.
Did it ever happen?
Why do it if you can't tell people about it? There was a funny thing from Queensland Police we can show you. They kind of put up a little GIF, which we can't play. You got the image there that we need backup now. Facebook is down. The funny one from the SES say, don't call 000, please. But I don't think people were actually doing that, but we did have a bit of fun with it, that's for sure.
By all accounts, they weren't. There was some police comment today saying, that didn't happen.
It was a joke.
Everybody.
I think people are going to keep back. Like the people that were seriously affected by this, whether they were just trying to promote themselves and what they did on, reality TV last night, or whether they had a serious business implication, I think they're going to keep baying for blood until they get an answer. Because, we're still not hearing anything from Facebook.
That in itself is pretty weird, isn't it?
And they put out a statement just at 6 p.m. tonight where they're still saying we're addressing this.
So
some things are
14
affected,
hours on, right?
And no indication of any reasons.
Well, one of the stories that's leading on the New York Times website at the moment is there's going to be criminal charges against, or there's a criminal investigation rather, against Facebook over these allegations from last year of data sharing. You remember there was a suggestion mid-last year that they had given access to data to a whole bunch of tech companies, and in return they got access to a lot of their platforms and their technology as well. So that's a big step forward in terms of the privacy issues that we know that they're having. And if you're Facebook, you'd probably be pretty happy you're focused over here and not over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought
it was interesting because the amount of apps that we have on our phones kind of counts for nothing when the 3 ones that you use all the time just go down. So I'm kind of curious as to whether or not people go, oh, Maybe I will have a look at the newspaper and check out
I certainly went to Twitter.
website. There you go.
Twitter was trending. And I don't know if they could. I'll look into the economics and update you next time. But I don't know if they could get their ads, the spend on their ads up in time, or change the rate cards and the brochures.
Surge pricing
That's right.
on Twitter.
And we actually saw a little bit of an influx on yourmoney.com.au. Not sure if they're completely correlated. People might have just been, interested in our content, following Chinese data out today. But certainly there's a lot of.
Well, that's always good to know, I think.
Quickly, as well as Twitter being a big winner, a news.com.au's article reckons news outlets for sure, because people realise you don't actually have to eat your news just from Facebook. Guess what? There's a heap of stuff out there you can, and smartphone batteries not drained as much today. Because
and very productive day.
Very productive.
Yeah, your screen time reports are going to be a bit.
Screen time reports are well done. Well done, all of you this week. Yeah. Take one of those a win.
Now, moving on, Elon Musk is going to personally approve all new hires for Tesla, which is a company with 40,000 employees, by the way. A leaked email sent to internal recruiting agents says that all headcount requests from the business must get Elon approval. Now, evidence of this sign-off is required, which we thought was pretty staggering, really. I mean, it's essentially a freeze on hiring, I suppose, but it's also a way of Elon to kind of stamp his authority on the business again. Is that how you read this, Claire?
Anyone who's worked in a big corporate knows that this happens quite regularly. And look, if it's Elon personally signing off on, a new receptionist or, a new junior sort of staff member and not senior appointments like you would expect a CEO to be involved in, then that would be a bit crazy. But these things do get out of hand, and when you're in a company that's that big, those sort of little speed bumps you put in the way that pulls the team back into line, and there's a process you have to go through, and then no doubt there's a committee that goes all through it, and you sit down once a week and you tick it all off to say X team can have Y resources because it's going to be aligned to these sort of outcomes. So I went through a number of those over the years, and it didn't really, in the end, stop you from doing a whole lot.
I guess luckily Woolworths hasn't had too many Elon Musks in charge, which the PR team would be happy about.
Yeah. Good point.
Very true. Yes.
I think the problem for Elon is that, look, on the one hand, as a business journalist, what really grinds your gears is the number of corporate leaders who don't want to talk, and then when they do talk, they say nothing. And so, look, I'm all for, eccentric and visionary business leaders who actually say things. The problem for Elon is that he doesn't run a private company. He runs a listed company that's listed on the NASDAQ, and therefore he has obligations to his staff and to his shareholders. So I don't think this is just a micromanagement issue. I think if it does go to the extent of, all hires in the company, or at least a majority of them, I just think that's bad governance. And, he wants us to think that he's out there solving all these major problems, solving, LA's traffic and solving South Australia's energy crisis, and he's, focused on all these big ticket world problems. And yet he's also telling us he's got the time to approve this sort of stuff. So it's just a bottleneck. It's not, in shareholders' interests. So maybe he should take it private once and for all.
Yep.
Pretty strange news there out of Elon Musk. Now, speaking of billionaires, Jeff Bezos has 3 words that will change the way people work. They are disagree and commit. He says it's all about making sure that everyone is heard, but a decision is still reached. It's kind of an interesting one. It's not brand new information. It's kind of, apparently he's borrowed this in a way from somebody else, but it's certainly, he says, how he runs his business. What do you think about that, Alex?
Yeah, I think he gets up a lot earlier in the morning than Elon Musk, from all reports, doesn't he? Yeah, look, I'm not sure. There's a lot of talk about Jeff Bezos in the morning at the moment in his divorce. I think he's probably
commitment.
He's a better one to be looking at than Elon for all the aspiring business students out there, I think.
Actually, disagree and commit sounds like it might work for the current marriage situation as
disagree
well.
and commit, yeah, maybe that's where he picks it up from his lawyer.
It sounds like a broader tonic for life, really, at the moment. One of my favourite Jeff Bezos little management tools is never have a meeting that can't be fed by more than two pizzas, one pizza.
Oh,
we like that one.
Spot on.
Wouldn't go far in this newsroom, would it?
Not convinced that I'm exactly right, but we love that one.
It's a really good one.
If they can't be fed by those pizzas, there's too many people in the room.
Exactly right. And it's right. It's spot on.
Yeah.
But I suppose with the idea of disagreeing and committing, I mean, you go around that room, everybody can be fed by the pizza and everything like that. But do you think that he's got a point? Do you think that it's really important to make sure that everyone is heard, and then you can just blast ahead and do what you want to do anyway, making sure that they're now on the same team as you?
That's leadership.
Is it? Yeah, that's the way you do it?
In a way. I mean, sure, I mean, if you're referencing what you've heard, I mean, if you're going in saying, like, everyone, let's go around the table and then I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, that's not particularly constructive. If you're able to be open enough to be heard and then be listened to, that's what, and then lead, like, then commit
and then
go
get people on board behind that vision, right?
Yeah, that's exactly.
That was the quote, I think, here, was that he said, look, I understand that you don't agree with me on this, but are you willing to take a gamble with me on it?
And I think it's the disagreement that's increasingly rare, right? Maybe not in editorial meetings, but I think in the broader corporate world, you know, I think that's the bit that people are really taking out of this. You've got to commit. There's usually the commitment phase where you implement whatever the decision is, but you know, insofar as this encourages other businesses to let people speak out a little bit more, you know, maybe it's helpful.
I think it depends on the leader too. I mean, if you've truly got someone who is open to listening to different points of view, then usually you can actually have a conversation where disagreement is actually able to be facilitated and taken into account. But if you've got that guy or that woman who's always just going to do what they're going to do, then why would you bother?
True. Claire and Alex are going to stick around with us because still to come we're going to talk about, would you pay $20,000 for a rare limited edition Coles collectible?
There's more Your Money Live coming up after the break.
Australian shopping centres are seriously struggling. The bricks and mortar retail giants have been trying to pivot into more experience-based food and beverage malls, but it doesn't really seem to be working. Visits to shopping centres have dropped around 15% in 2018 versus the year before. Now, Claire Kimball from The Squiz and Alex Vikovich from yourmoney.com.au remain with us to discuss. Do we think that we're going to be the generation that sees the end of shopping centres?
No.
What do you think?
No, I really don't. No, not in our lifetime, I don't think. And I get the retail sort of mega trend, the push towards bespoke and out of big box, big, you know, chain retailers, but that's always going to be the basis, I think, of our shopping experiences going forward. But I totally agree. You want a car park. You want convenience. I think the busier our lives are getting, the harder it is to actually go about your daily business. That convenience is going to be king, whether that's better click and collect options, whether that's...
Which only works if you've got good parking.
Yeah, but experiences, I don't know.
Yeah, apparently the numbers are anchored by the fact that they've usually got a supermarket in them, and that helps out, because people do need to go to the supermarket.
Well, it'll be interesting to see whether those numbers change at all with the Facebook outage that we've seen today. People might have been out there attending bricks and mortar stores, and no doubt the retailers and the property developers will be hoping that that was the case.
Yeah.
You know, I spent some time, as you guys know, in the great state of Texas, where the strip malls are a huge part of life. And you know, I speak to people, and perhaps one of the reasons is this kind of incidental exercise. So the car park is key. There is no strip mall in America without these large car parks where you can drive up to, but you still do get the kind of incidental exercise walking from store to store. And increasingly, I think that's one of the only forms of exercise that some of us get. So this is perhaps something that the shopping malls should be focusing on a little bit more, the Westfields and so on, how they impact health and wellness by way of their, you know, walkarounds.
I have a theory also. I think the variety of stuff on offer in the shopping centres these days is just so limited. And I mean, you put it down to the very high rents in these big shopping centres that we have in Australia. And I think that is limiting the ability for interesting brands to crop up, to be able to afford the rent, for, you know, small businesses to be able to just get an idea and, you know, give it a go. There's no chance of giving it a go in the big shopping centres. It's just too expensive. I think something's got to be done with the rent, and I think there's kind of a reckoning there somewhere with the foot traffic down, because why go to you know, these shopping centres with the brands that, you know, do very good online shopping? It's the same stuff everywhere you go. I see little differentiation from one centre to the next. Unless we can give small brands and businesses a go, and, you know.
And the ones that are really good do have not just opportunities for smaller, good retailers that do actually draw crowds, but also some of those public facilities, whether it's a library, whether it's a service sort of centre, whether
play
it's
area for the kids,
theatres or whatever. They're more community hubs than anything else.
Fair enough, you try to pivot towards food and beverage, but, you know, let's say food and beverage is 20% of the shopping mall, and the other 80% is retail. You can't have it the other way, can you? Because people don't want to go to something that's 80% food court You know, do they? I mean, surely not.
Well, possibly if they live upstairs, because that's
Maybe.
the other trend, of course, isn't it?
Good
Where
point.
the high streets in a lot of suburbs, particularly in Australia, are you know, turning into the large Stockland apartments, swimming pool, and shopping. So I think that, you know, food court's probably a big part of that, and the supermarket, of course.
Yep.
Speaking of Jeff Bezos just earlier, of course, they're moving back into bricks and mortar. So that's sort of a long-term bet on perhaps these shopping malls sticking around.
Yep.
Certainly. All right, we want to touch on one more thing before we do leave it. A rare limited edition Coles collectible appears to have been sold for over $20,000 on eBay. Now, only 100 Golden Billy Banana stickies were made by the supermarket. And an online bidding war seems to have exploded. Now, we say apparently because we just can't really imagine a world in which this would happen. You're having a look at the thing on the screen there.
The conclusion of our morning meeting was like that basically Coles must have bid 20,000.
I mean,
so that we would speak about
they have. Very
Because
smart.
I cannot believe. And also there's a couple of others still online and they're going for, you know, a couple of thousand, even a couple of hundred. I just think it's steamed a bit too standard. I'm a bit too suspicious.
Well, for me, the most shocking thing is that, look, you're very cynical there, Brooke. I think Claire Kimball can answer whether that actually goes on in the boardroom.
Is that what happens? Is that how they do it?
Well, no, marketing teams are all prevailing in retailers, and they've had very, very successful campaigns. Coles, the one last year that, you know, had tangible outcomes to their bottom line with sales, and significantly damaged Woolworths. So, you know, they're on a roll. They know what they're doing. These collectibles are incredible.
I mean, the little shop was massive. I think this feels like a bit of a flop.
It's hard to double down.
You can't back up after the
It's
little
really
shop. So I reckon how do you get it back in the headlines? 20 grand cheap marketing campaign.
Well, I note that Claire Kimball didn't rule out the possibility of Coles being behind this.
I know,
absolutely not. No way.
But look, the most shocking thing for me is that I, like most Australians, spend more than $30 at Coles all the time.
Yes.
And I've never been offered a sticky.
Yes.
I actually didn't really know what they were until this $20,000 thing started trending. And that's the real conspiracy as far as I'm concerned.
Where are they?
I did do a Woolworths shop the other day and my kid likes them and I got home and I thought, hey,
where's my
they're valuable.
I didn't get them.
True.
I don't, I don't think the frontline staff are behind it.
Well, you want to self-serve?
Oh, good point.
So but the screen should come across saying, do you want a service attendant to get your stickies?
Well, I've had the person behind me in the line go, oh, can I have mine? Can I have yours? Can I have yours for the
the kind of guy who needs that, you know?
I don't know. Well, maybe I do.
Get on Facebook.
Do not pay 20 grand for those things. They're like about this big and your kid will lose it.
But obviously they're working, right? I mean, they've been popular. And I love the thought of these serious boardrooms and corporate affairs people sitting around and probably analysing what the child psychologists tell them.
I tell you exactly what would
Gut
happen.
feel.
Marketing would go for it. Corporate affairs gets the complaint phone calls, and you're going, "What's going on, guys?"
That's right. But this one took off. And also, look, I think Coles and Woolies, they get a bad rap, and I'm no fan of duopolies or monopolies. I understand the need for competition, but they're trying to sell a fairly benign product here with these stickies. Like, they're selling fruits and vegetables to mums and dads. When you compare that to some of the cartoons and toys used by some of our financial institutions, you know, selling financial products to kids, you know, I think I'm a fan of the stickies.
I just love the marketing genius who said, but wait, it'll be called the Gold Billy Banana.
Yeah, it's true.
High five.
Very good.
And we're going to pay 20 grand on Facebook on eBay for that. Thank you, guys. Claire Kimball, Alex Vikovich, thank you very much from The Squiz and yourmoney.com.au respectively.